Hey guys, what's up? It's Stephanie. Welcome back to my channel. So in the video today, I'm going to be discussing how did I study for the PANCE and when did I take it. And so if you haven't seen my previous video, I passed my PANCE thankfully on my first attempt, which I'm very happy and very blessed. And I'm just really excited about. So I'm going to be discussing, like I said, what did I do to study for my PANCE. So the thing about PA school, for those of you who are about to start in PA school or in PA school, even interested in PA school, is that you start studying from your PANCE from day one. So the first day that you start PA school until you graduate, you are studying for the PANCE. And then of course your program is ensuring that you are studying for the PANCE the entire time. And so that's the mentality you have to have if you're in PA school or before you start PA school, when you start PA school, is that from day one you are studying for the PANCE. And depending on how much effort you put in your studying, how well you prepare yourself for the PANCE is really going to decide on whether you pass the PANCE or not. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. And not only how much you study during PA school, like during didactic year, during clinical year, not only how much you study, but it's going to make you not only pass the PANCE, but it's going to make you be a better provider, right? You're going to be able to provide better care for your patients. So that's definitely one of the fears that I have as a new PAC, so new physician assistant that has graduated, is just causing harm. And that's definitely one of the oaths that we take whenever we get accepted into PA school and just for anything in medicine, is that we want to do no harm. So always have that in the back of your mind. And that's why I ensured that I studied as much as I could from day one until the last day of my PA school. So my PA program was 2.5 years. First year is didactic, second year is going to be clinical rotations, and then the half of the year is going to be just a capstone, which is a rotation that you choose that you want to do in. So for example, in me, since I was interested in critical care, I decided to do my rotation in burn. So I did burn medicine. Very, very happy that I did that rotation. I learned so much, not only in regards to burn, but also in regards to critical care and just other diseases. Because a lot of the patients that we saw with burns, whether it was burns or necrotizing fasciitis or your Stevens-Johnson syndrome or your toxic epidermolysis, a lot of these patients had a lot of comorbidities like diabetes, coronary disease, liver disease, kidney problems. So not only were we treating the reason why they were being seen there, but we were also treating the comorbidities. So I definitely learned a lot during that rotation. So that entire rotation, even though I was done with all my EORs in my clinical rotation, so my clinical year, second year, I still ensured that I studied as much as I could because I knew I was gonna take the PANCE soon. So I graduated in December 11th of 2020 from my program, and I took the PANCE on January 25th, 2021. So I took it about a month and a few weeks, month and a half later. I had originally scheduled it for January, I think it was 18th or 16th. So I had originally scheduled it earlier, but being that I'm a very anxious person and just a very nervous person, I wanted to ensure that I prepared myself well for this exam so that I can pass it on the first attempt. Because of course, if you take your PANCE and if you don't pass it on the first attempt, you need to retake it, of course, but it has to be within 90 days. So after 90 days is when you can retake the PANCE if you have not passed it. And so I always want to make sure that I pass the PANCE on my first try, because of course after I passed my PANCE I was going to start applying for my license depending on the state where I'm going to be practicing it, and I wanted to make sure that I had passed my PANCE so that I can focus on my licensing. And so when I graduated on December 11th, what I did after that is I just kind of took a week off. I celebrated my graduation with my siblings. So I have 2 younger siblings. I'm the oldest one. One of them graduated as a registered nurse, for which I'm very happy about, and then the youngest one graduated as a teacher. So we had planned this whole trip, but unfortunately due to COVID it was canceled. So we ended just celebrating with us, with close family and friends. And then on top of that, of course, I made sure I spent time with family members for like Christmas, etc. So that's why I took about a week off. After that, I made sure that I studied for the remainder of the time. So I started studying like towards the end of the December, and I told my husband, you know what, you're not going to see me possibly for the next month. And thankfully he was very respectfully, and he allowed me to study and it did not bother me at all the entire time I was studying. So for that entire month, I had no life whatsoever. and this is probably excessive of how much I studied, but I always want to over prepare myself than under prepare myself. So when I started studying for the month, I studied about 6 days a week, if not every day throughout the week, and I studied for about 10 to 12 hours every day, if not the majority of the time 10 hours. And usually I would wake up around 8 or 9 sometimes, study from 9 sometimes until 7 p.m., sometimes until 9 if I still had brain power to do that. And I did that. And the good thing about that is that the entire time, of course, I took breaks. I would take about half an hour break to eat lunch, and then after that I would go back to studying. But then I would look forward to when I finished studying, because I would reward myself with either an episode of a show that I was watching or a movie. During that time, the show Bridgerton had come out, and I was so happy. It was an amazing show for those of you who have not watched it. And I always rewarded myself with an episode at the end of my study schedule. So it really, really kept me going. And I always made sure I went to sleep early. I tried to go to sleep by 11, if not 10:30 was the latest I would try to go to sleep with, so I can do the same thing every day. And then of course that entire time I made sure I had a cup of coffee every day when I woke up in the morning. So sometimes I would wake up earlier, like at 7:30, just so I can drive to Starbucks, get a cup of coffee, come back, and then just get that huge coffee and that venti, right? And then just drink that the entire day when I was studying. So that was my studying schedule. What I did is that, first off, when I started my capstone rotation, although I know most of you may, or most of your programs may not have that capstone rotation, most of the programs are 2 years. My program is one of those exceptions that are like 2.5 years that includes an extra rotation. So most of you may not have this luxury. So like I said, during that 4 months that I have where I was doing my capstone rotation, I did it from like September till December. I had like one exam here and then like a few assignments here and there, but I wasn't constantly studying for my UWorld. And so during this time, it's really important that, of course, you as yourself push yourself to study and ensure that you are constantly studying and don't take that time as a vacation time.
Do it! Just do it!
So that's what I did. And what I did is that I started reviewing the topics during that time. So for example, in September, I gave 2 weeks to cardiology, 2 weeks to musculoskeletal, and then of course the big topics like GI would be like a week. And then once I got through all of those, like the big topics that are highly tested, and then I started getting to hematology and urology, usually these topics I would give them a few days. Sometimes there was a topic that I finished sooner than the amount of time I had allotted for that subject, and if that was the case, then I would, of course, finish quicker and then just move on into the next subject. And so that's kind of how I studied from September, even like late August, until December when I took the week off and then started studying for the PANCE. So this entire time I ensured that I was kind of like passively studying, but I always ensured that I was studying the entire time. And when it came down to studying for the PANCE, that's where I really got onto hardcore studying, because during my rotations, of course, I would go in like at 5 a.m. So I would wake up like at 4 a.m. in the morning, and sometimes I would go to sleep at 9 or 8, get off at around like 3 or 4. And so sometimes I was really tired, I would go home and nap, and then try to study like at least an hour or two every day after my rotation if I had the energy. Definitely those weekends though, during my rotation, I did ensure that I studied like the entire day. So I would dedicate myself and wake up in the morning like at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m., go to Starbucks coffee, because the Starbucks coffee and my city were open, of course, with ensuring that you have your proper distancing, right? Social distancing. So I went to the coffee shops and I would be there from like 7:30 or 8 until 4 or 5. And those were on the weekends. And then I took the rest of the afternoon off to spend with my family. So the weekends usually were the days that I spent studying the most. And I went over subjects or topics that I really had a hard time understanding. For example, acute kidney injury, right? Ensuring that I know the pre-renal, intrinsic, and post-renal causes, just ensuring that I know that information well. And another thing that really helped me out was flashcards. And I know I've said this in previous videos, but repetition is the key. Whether you are repeating the information through flashcards, doing them daily, whether you are repeating the information through podcasts, YouTube videos, I always made sure that I listened to these every day, or I did flashcards. And so I did that from my second semester PA school until I graduated from PA school. And of course, I kept doing it after graduation. I actually increased the number of flashcards when I started studying for the PANCE. I know this sounds crazy, but I would do about 300 flashcards to 400 flashcards every day on top of what I was studying. So when I was done studying, usually like at the 9-hour mark, I would allot about an hour or two to only flashcards every day, and that's what I would do. And the thing is with flashcards is once you start a huge amount of flashcards, there is information that you're not familiar with, so it might take you longer to go through them, but by the end, like when I was getting closer towards my PANCE date, those flashcards got a lot easier. So I was going through them super quick because I had already seen the information, I had known the information. And my flashcards were from osmosis. The thing about osmosis that I really like is that it incorporates everything. So I made sure that I had pathophysiology, physiology, I had pharmacology, right? And then of course clinical medicine, like the treatment, etc. And I just shuffled these and I put them in my flashcards. And then of course I made sure I focused on my weak subjects, like my hematology and oncology was one of my weak subjects, and musculoskeletal was another one. So I made sure I always focused on these. And so I did flashcards every day, like I said, and I increased the amount that month that I was studying for the PANCE. That entire month that I was studying for the PANCE, like I said, I had no life. Since I was kind of passively studying that semester for my PANCE, when it came down to me sitting down and actually studying the information for my PANCE, I ensured that I knew the information well. But the difference is that since I had a very decreased amount of time of studying for the PANCE, I didn't allot a huge amount of time for the subject. So for example, for cardio, I spent a week. Musculoskeletal, I spent a week. And then progressively as I went, I started decreasing the amount of time depending on how comfortable I was on a certain subject. So for example, GI is something that I'm very comfortable with, so I didn't spend as much time on that one. Then musculoskeletal, which is something that I am very comfortable with. And on the fourth day, on the fourth week of my studying, what I did is that I had studied everything, the entire blueprint. So what I focused on now was questions. So I did a bunch of practice questions, bunch of practice questions that entire time. I went through all the Rosh review questions, so it's about like I think 3,000 questions. So I went through all of those. I did a lot of Exammaster also, which is provided by my program. I did a lot of SmartyPANCE questions also. So I did a lot of practice questions, also did a lot of UWorld. And for example, when I was going through the Rosh, if there was questions that I had problems with or I didn't know, I would just take a picture of the question or just copy the information and then just start a Word document. And every day in the morning, I would start my studying with going over those questions that had gotten wrong from Rosh review. And then I would go into whatever I was studying. So that was about the fourth week. And then at the end of that fourth week, what I did is that I took a practice PANCE. So through the NCCPA website or the PAEA website, they have practice PANCE that you can take. So they have two, they have A and B, and they're about $50 each. So I paid for A, I took the exam as if I was taking the real PANCE, and it tells you a score, and it gives you the probability that you'll pass, which is going to be green, the probability that you may or may not pass, which is yellow, and then the probability that you will fail, which is going to be red. So it'll give you an overall score, and then depending on the system, it'll also give you a score what you got for that. For example, gastrointestinal, it'll be, for me, since I know this one very well, you'll have bars, which is going to be the average. Mine was like high off the average, right? Versus things like hematology, oncology, it was under the average. And so it'll give you just kind of what you scored on each subject. And so for that, it really helped me out because it showed me where I am in regards to my studying and what I need to focus on. So then at the end of that fourth week, that last week, what I did is that I focused on my weaknesses. So hematology and oncology was one of my weaknesses, musculoskeletal was one of my weaknesses. So I focused my time on my weaknesses that last week. And finally, that day before my exam, I took the day completely off. So I watched a bunch of Netflix, I talked to friends and family on the phone, I checked my Facebook. I mean, I kind of came back to life, right? Because I was not having a life for the past like 5+ weeks, if not, I think it was 6 weeks. And so the day before my exam, I just did not do anything. And then of course, I ensured that I scheduled my exam on a Monday. And the reason why I ensured that I scheduled my exam on a Monday is that just like my brain is just function due to previous exams that I've had during my didactic years, that we always had exams on Mondays or Wednesdays. So that's why I decided to do my exam on Monday, and I decided to do it early, so mine was at 9 a.m. in the morning. Because I'm fresher in the morning, woke up, had a cup of coffee, relaxed, and went and took my exam. So it really depends on you on how you want to take your exam, when you want to take it. And another reason why I decided to schedule it on a Monday is, like I said, is that on a previous video, is usually it takes about 4 to 5 business days for you to get your PANCE score. So if you take it at the beginning of the week, it's more likely you'll get it during that week. So for example, I took mine on Monday, I got my score on a Thursday. Some of my classmates that took it on a Wednesday or on a Thursday, they had to wait those business days on top of that the weekend. So it took them about a week to get the results, versus me, it was like 4 days to get my results. So that's why I took mine on a Monday. So hopefully this information is helpful in regards to how I studied and what I did. So once again, I started passively studying for my PANCE in August, right? Late August. I would do about 2 weeks on the big subjects, but I was passively studying once again. And then as I got towards the end of the blueprint, towards subjects that don't have that much high percentage, then I didn't give as much time, maybe like a few days to those subjects. And then once I graduated, I took a week off just to celebrate, have fun, spend time with families, and then that's when my hardcore studying began. Right, so I studied about 10 to 12 hours every day. I tried to do the 7 days, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I would just do 6 days. And first 4 weeks, I did just pure studying. At the end of the 5th week, I took my NCCPA exam, I did practice exam for a PANCE, and then I focused on whatever I was during that last week, and then I took my PANCE. And then the key was that rest day before you take your PANCE. Alright guys, so I hope this video was helpful and hopefully it gives you a study guide. I apologize if it's like all over the place. I studied between, it was 5 to 6 weeks, if not it was between like 5.5 weeks for my PANCE in total, like just time dedicated for the exam. But like I said, you start studying for your PANCE from day 1 of PA school. So that's why it's really important that you really study hard for your EORs, because if you really study hard for your EORs and you know your information, it's really going to help you out on your PANCE. Alright guys, as always, thanks for watching my videos. If you have any comments, questions, or anything like that, feel free to comment below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.